Okay, so my article was Making the Most of the Classroom Mosaic by Bruce Marlowe and Marilyn Page. It talks a lot about how our schools are changing, how more immigrants are moving to America, and the mainstreaming of children with disabilities and rising in poverty among students have all contributed to making our classrooms a more diverse. And this is different than any time in our nation's history. And it explains that a century ago, Europe sent the most immigrants to the U.S., and now they're coming from all over. And African Americans and Hispanic Americans together make up 1/3 of our total school enrollment now. Diversity is playing a huge role in the classroom. The student's country of origin, cultural heritage, linguistic background, and religious beliefs all influence learning. Teachers who fail to acknowledge all these different components of the classroom often face classrooms of disengaged and unmotivated students. And I think we can see that as we're volunteering at Laie Elementary with all the different cultures they have there. Today's teachers are required to be sensitive to a wider range of multicultural differences than ever before. By the end of the century, more than 1/3 of the school-age population will be non-white, and minority students are already the majority in many large school districts in bigger cities. And teachers believe they may be unprepared to teach students from these diverse cultures, and I think that's pretty common with all teachers. So we have a special job as teachers now. We are concerned with how they will relate content in multiple ways to meet the needs of the diverse student body. Teachers feel that this is a difficult task, and it definitely is. They're justified in that. We cannot simultaneously be all things to all students. So we have to rely heavily on a lot of different things. We must reframe our questions about teaching and learning to allow for student learning in a way that allows them to connect content knowledge to what they already know. We have to respect ethnic differences, but continually trying to change our instruction to conform to these students' needs perpetuates the overgeneralizations about ethnic groups and puts the focus of teaching in the wrong place. We have to rely heavily on their ethnic differences, and they have to draw from that knowledge base that they already have in order to contribute to learning new things. So classroom culture. Teachers of minority students in traditional classrooms end up spending more time talking than listening. And this means that minority students spend a lot more time listening than actually being heard. This supports a classroom environment of submissiveness and makes the minority students appear to be nonverbal, non-analytical, or disengaged. Teachers should always strive for a constructivist classroom environment where students' thoughts and opinions are clearly valued and where students can use their cultural and linguistic differences to solve problems. I think that is actually something we can see at Laie a lot, is the teachers supporting the students and their differences. So disability in the classroom has also grown in the past. So now, today, with specific learning disabilities, we see about 50% of students have those. The different percentage of students now, from speech impairments to multiple different disabilities, hearing, visual impairments, and autism. So those are all the percentages of students in the classroom with those. So Children with Disabilities, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is an act that came and makes it possible for all students, regardless of their disabilities, and helps them be entitled to a free and appropriate public education. The idea, as it's often shortened to, prohibits the exclusion of disabled students from public schools. Although 1 in 10 students receive special education services, many more children in school are presumed to have disabilities. That means there's a lot of students in our classrooms that aren't being treated with what they need. About 65% of students with disabilities receive instruction in the context of a regular classroom, and in some states more than 80% of students are doing that. So that's pretty cool. Disabilities in traditional classrooms. So educators have many questions why students tend to resist what their education has to offer them. We must ask, though, are teachers to blame for this? Is it possible that students and or their families and the environments they're raised in are responsible for weak academic skills? So disabilities make learning in classrooms more challenging. Some disabilities may even make the learning of some things impossible. And as teachers, we have to create opportunities for learning that are more exciting, more enriching, and more rewarding, and more appealing in general. For the past 20 years, most special education received a large part of their education in public schools on a pull-out basis, which basically means that students leave the regular classroom for part or all of the day to work with a special education teacher in a resource room on individual skills. And so there's some problems that we see with the pull-out programs. Although research shows that special needs students appear to do better in regular classrooms, recent surveys indicate that most teachers are uncomfortable with special education students in their own classrooms. I believe that they feel that they don't have the proper training and they feel unprepared to work with these certain disabilities. So there's some powerful ideas that different scholars and educators have for creating an inclusive classroom. One of the most effective ways to teach children with disabilities is to prepare them to teach others. We see this a lot with teachers wanting us to work in groups. If students are struggling in your class, this means it is imperative that you think about the ways in which challenged students can fit into the environment. And your students will differ in many ways, and you must follow their lead, their needs, and their strength. It's important for teachers to be prepared to teach students of all kinds and abilities.